And thank you all for joining and welcome to today's event, Uprooting the KKL-JNF with the Green Olive Collective, Umar al-Ghubari of Zochrot, and Ghassan Najjar of the Burin Land and Farming Cooperative. My name is Erez Bleicher, and I'm the Advocacy and Membership Director of the Green Olive Collective, an advocacy, information, and tour guiding center committed to a democratic future and an end to the ongoing displacement of Palestinians. We provide communities around the world with insight into the apartheid policies of the occupation and the resources to engage in meaningful advocacy in solidarity with Palestinians and human rights defenders calling for an immediate ceasefire and the end of all military aggressions in the West Bank, Gaza Strip, Lebanon, and Syria. Today, we will be discussing the central role of the Jewish National Fund in the ongoing displacement of Palestinians and ways we can act in direct solidarity with Palestinian farmers in the West Bank, stewarding their lands in the face of military rule and settler violence. The JNF is best known around the world for its forestation, tree planting, and environmental conservation efforts, but this ethical image stands in contrast to the central role it plays in the expropriation of Palestinian land, exemplified by the fact that more than 2/3 of JNF forests are located on ruins of 87 Palestinian villages depopulated during the 1948 Naqab. As the JNF continues to plant conifer forests on Palestinian land in the Galilee, Naqab, and West Bank, many thousands of Palestinian olive trees are at the same time being burned in arson attacks by settlers, with soldiers standing by or accompanying the attackers. In the village of Burin alone, located between Huwara and Nablus in the northern West Bank, more than 2,000 olive trees were burned in the past year. This event today is part of our broader Sowing Solidarity campaign in partnership with the Burin Land and Farming Cooperative to counter the JNF by planting olive trees, not settler forests. We are calling on justice communities and people like yourselves around the world to host solidarity events and informational salons this January in solidarity with Palestinian farmers in the northern West Bank and in opposition to the greenwashing of occupation. You can learn more and register to host an event in your community as part of this global initiative at the link I am sharing now in the chat. Today's webinar will also raise funds as part of this campaign to rehabilitate olive groves and replant as many as possible of the 2,000 olive trees destroyed by settlers and arson attacks in Burin over the last year. Every sapling counts. You can sponsor an olive tree today by contributing to the Green Olive Fund at giftjustice.com, which I also put into the chat moments ago. Umar al-Ghubari, our first speaker today, is a researcher, political educator, and lecturer on Palestinian history, identity, Naqba, and return. He works with Zochrot, promoting acknowledgement and accountability for the ongoing injustices of the Naqba, and a reconceptualization of return as an imperative redress of the Naqba. Umar regularly coordinates and guides tours in depopulated Palestinian villages and localities inside Israel, known as the Lands of 48 in much of Palestinian society. He also edited an invaluable collection of vignettes and short stories called Auda, Imagined Testimonies from Possible Futures, imagining a future after Palestinian refugees are allowed to return. He'll speak with us today about the past and present of the JNF and its role in the ongoing dispossession of Palestinians. Ghassan Najjar, our second speaker, is a member of the Burin Land and Farming Cooperative and a long-standing and prolific advocate against land expropriation and environmental destruction. For years, he has organized creative direct actions and popular civil resistance in defense of his community and in support of farmers, students, shepherds, and others in his community bearing the brunt of state violence. We're honored to have him here to share with us more about the important work of the cooperative and ways we can work in solidarity with Palestinian farmers. Ghassan and Umar, your time is sincerely appreciated, and we are really, truly honored to have you both here. The last thing I'll say before we begin is that hopefully at the end of this webinar, we will have time for question and answer and more open conversation. So as Umar and then Ghassan share and speak with us, feel free, starting from this moment, to send questions in the chat, which hopefully I will be able to integrate into the Q&A at the end. If you can just write question with a dash or colon in your comment in the chat, I'll know to look for it and integrate it afterwards. With that, sincere thanks again, Umar and Ghassan, and I'll pass to you, Umar, to begin. Are you able to unmute?
Yes, I'm muted, right?
Yes, we can hear you. Hello.
Okay, hello, thank you very much, Iris. Thank you for Green Olive Tours for this significant event, which is historical and actual topic. And I will do my best in the short time that you gave me to summarize some of the history of the JNF and
Thank you.
the policy of this institution towards or against the Palestinian people and the Palestinian land. So allow me to share some images and quotes with you. I hope that I'm allowed. Yeah. So we talk about one of the most, or the one of the racist institutions in the Zionist movement that was established in 1901, related to the Zionist propaganda that this land, Palestine, was an empty land, shmama in Hebrew. While we can see, of course, in 1901 and even before that, well developed, or at least developing cities and very well cultivated lands and very hundreds of Palestinian villages that owned their own land for generations, and they cultivated this land, of course, before the Zionist movement thought about occupying Palestine in the late time of the 19th century and the early time of the 20th century. These images are from the cities of Jaffa and Tiberias and Bir Sabah, Beersheba, and one village of Kufur Baram in the Galilee, one of the destroyed villages. And of course, these just examples of what was in Palestine in the late 19th century and the 20th century. So the idea of founding this institution, according to the Zionist movement in the Third Zionist Congress in 1901, is to collect money from the Jewish communities in order to support the Zionist movement, in order to buy back the land of the Jewish people for the Jewish people. And it's clear even today in the website of the JNF that the land that the JNF managed to buy, and I will explain how they bought this land, is for the interest and the benefit of the Jewish people only. Even citizens of the State of Israel that are not Jewish, like myself, are not allowed to get benefit from the land of the JNF, because it should be purposed and aimed to the interest and the benefit of the Jews only. Not only the Jews in Israel, but every Jew all over the world, but not the citizens of the State of Israel. So in the beginning, the JNF promoted the idea of collecting money from Jewish people using the Jewish traditional way of giving money in this world in order to get benefits in the I will call it the coming world, the the second life of the human being. It's very religious idea, and a lot of stories and myths and symbols were created already in the early 30s and 20s among the Jewish community in Palestine and the Jewish communities all over the world. One of the icons and the symbols of the JNF is this small box that called the blue box. Even it had different colors in the beginning, but it was shaped during the 30s as a blue box with the map of Israel. And notice the map that includes all Palestine. And the idea was to give this small box in different places among the Jewish communities all over, and to ask people to give just one icon or small amount of money in order to collect from as much as possible people money to give to the JNF. And the JNF role will be to make the desert bloom in Palestine, which is of course fake propaganda, because Palestine was not a desert as we already saw. So this myth that was built around the JNF, that it will save the land of the Jewish people for the interest of the Jewish people. And of course, it will make the area prosper and green, because it's not like that. And this land will be populated by Jewish people, because it's empty land. Even some of the Zionist leaders explained at that time that this land is not really empty as we thought, like Ahad Am, who was one of the important leaders of the Zionist movement and the Zionist writers. He said already in 1891 that unlike what we believe that this land is empty, I didn't find a piece of land that was not cultivated by the people that live over there. So the land is inhabited, and there are indigenous people using that land, and the mission will be very, very complicated and difficult for the Zionist movement. But the leaders of the Zionist movement insisted to continue in this direction in order to make the effort and to make any deal in order to capture lands for the political project that they planned in order to create a Jewish state, the Jewish majority in Palestine. And of course, for that, they need the land. If you need the land and you need that land empty, you need to transfer and to kick out the people that live in that place. Even the Zionist leaders and the Zionist literature is very, very smart. They will show us that they don't really want to transfer people, but on the ground we saw that they did. Later on, during the late 30s and the 40s, they even expressed the need and the need of transferring the Arabs or the Palestinians from the land in order to manage or to succeed in the project. As David Ben-Gurion said in 1937, we don't really want to dispossess people, but the population transfer have already occurred up to now in the Yisrael Valley, which is an area near Nazareth, in the coastal plain, and elsewhere in Palestine. And what is relevant to our meeting today, he said, you are well aware of the JNF activities in this regard. So already in 1937, David Ben-Gurion by himself acknowledged that the role or one of the roles of the JNF was to transfer Palestinian communities in order to manage to take the land for the aim or the goal of the JNF. David Ben-Gurion already saying to us that the JNF did that with some communities, but from today, now the transfer would have to be on a completely different scale. He meant that the numbers or the number of the people that we need to kick out will be much more bigger. And we know already now that most of the people think that the Palestinian communities had been expelled in 1948, 49, 51 only, but in fact, we know already about 60 Palestinian villages. In our map that we produced in the organization that I work with in Zochrot, we have a map and we named 57 Palestinian villages that had been expelled during the late years of 19th century, during the 20s, the 30s, and the early 40s of 1948. If you are familiar with the names of Nablus, which is Petach Tikva, today is Umarin, which is Zichron Yaakov, Tell al-Shimam, which is Kfar Yoshua. All these are actually Palestinian communities that had been expelled many years before 1948, thanks to the JNF activities. So we can easily understand that one of the roles of the JNF is to commit or to implement the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians in many years before the establishment of the State of Israel. And the people that used to lead the JNF acknowledged that and said that in different occasions. The chair of the JNF, Menachem Osishkin, in 1939 said, if you ask me whether it is moral to remove 60,000 families from their places of residence and transfer them elsewhere, while of course providing them with the means of resettlement, I will tell you it is moral. I support the transfer of 60,000 families from their places. Arthur Rupin from other Zionist organizations said, I don't believe in the transfer of individuals. I believe in the transfer of entire villages. And later in the 40s, the JNF continued this policy and they pushed out many Palestinian communities. And the one of the main figures, main persons that led the policy of the JNF, his name is Joseph Weiss or Yosef Weiss. He said in the 40s, as we see over here, that let's be honest among ourselves, it must be clear that there is no room for both peoples in this land. The only solution in the land of Israel, at least the western land of Israel, which is Palestine, and without Arabs. The only solution is the land of Israel, at least the western land of Israel, which is Palestine, without Arabs. The only way is to transfer the Arabs from here to the neighboring countries, to transfer all of them, maybe except Bethlehem, Nazareth, and the Old City, by the way, because they are in Christian they have Christian history and Christian neighborhoods. He was a little bit careful to touch these important cities, but in general, he supported the transfer of Palestinian communities out of Palestine. While the United Nations approved the partition plan in 1947, unlike the Zionist myth, in fact, only 7% of the land of Palestine was owned by the Zionist movement in different ways, most of them in dirty deals with feudals that during the Ottoman time formally owned or enrolled the land of the Palestinian farmers. And those feudals sold part of the land to some Zionist companies and Zionist institutions, including the JNF. By the way, this way of transferring land from one ownership to another one was done before the Zionist movement reached Palestine. But no one, even the feudals themselves, thought to transfer the community or to kick out the people that cultivated the land and worked in the land for generations. But when the Zionist movement bought some of these lands on these deals on above of the heads of the Palestinian communities, they thought that they have the right to kick out the people from this land that they bought. David Ben-Gurion was one of the masters of engineering transfer of Palestinian communities. Even during the war in 1948, he had kind of decisions, crucial decisions regarding the Palestinian refugees and the Palestinian refugees' lands. And with the JNF department, with the Yosef Weiss, they thought how to take care of the lands that the Palestinian refugees left beyond, and in order not to allow them to return. And what he did immediately after the establishment of the State of Israel is one of the biggest dirty deals between David Ben-Gurion and the Israeli government and the JNF. What he did, he sold 1 million dunams of land. Dunam is 1,000 kilometers square. In 1949, he sold to the JNF 1,000 dunams of land that belonged to the Palestinian refugees. 1 year after, in 1950, he sold 1 more million dunams of this land of the refugees. In total, he sold 2 million, 2.3 to the JNF that were added to about 1 million dunams that the JNF managed to buy before 1948. So already in the 50s, the JNF having more than 3.5 million dunams of land, 2/3 of them, at least 70% of them, were actually given by the Israeli government in 1950s. Formally, in 1953, they signed the agreement, and this paper in your right is actually the agreement between the government of Israel and the JNF talking about this deal, giving the land of the refugees to the JNF. By the way, the interest of the Israeli government is just to avoid the international law, because they can claim that we as a government didn't take the refugees' land. It's kind of a private company that administrate the land or bought the land of the refugees, which is kind of absurd. I'm not sure that it will be that helps according to the international law, but this was the idea beyond this deal. The other aspect was that the JNF, as a private company, can say that the land should be given or used only by Jews. The government, as a state, could not say that. It will be very clear as a racist state. So the state of Israel wanted to show itself as a democratic state, of course, and they said our law is all the citizens are equal, but they actually, in order to implement this discrimination, they did that by one of the Zionist arms, one of the Zionist paths, which is the JNF. In this land that the JNF bought from the Israeli government, there are dozens of Palestinian villages that had been destroyed, and the ruins of these villages are actually hidden by the colonial trees of the JNF in the JNF forests. The JNF itself acknowledged that the forests and the trees that hiding these ruins, this one of the roles of the JNF. As Michal Katorza, that was in charge on the signing inside the forest, she said that these parks are located on land where Palestinian villages once stood. The forests are there to conceal this history, these villages. So if you visit the state of Israel, and you will see green spots of big forests, and they look very beautiful from far. In fact, this is a crime scene, and if you go inside the forest and you look among the trees, you will see the ruins of the houses, the destroyed mosques, and the desecrated cemeteries, graveyards of the Palestinian villages. There are hundreds of them inside these forests. The JNF used one layer of complicity when they gave names to the forests using the different nations' names, including your nations, I assume. This photo, for example, is from Canada Park that covers 3 Palestinian villages. In fact, 4 Palestinian villages. One was occupied in 1948. 3 were occupied and destroyed in 1967. Imwas, Yalu, and Beit Nuba, and Deir Ayyub. And because it was destroyed in 1967, we even have a photo of the bulldozer destroying the houses of the village of Imwas before planting the forest. Also, the British Park, hiding ruins of 3 or 4 villages. The United States Independence Park does the same thing, covering the ruins of some Palestinian villages in the area of Jerusalem. So we can see that the JNF not only misuse the Judaism and the Jewish community and the Jewish money, and in this case we can see how the JNF involving different nations' names, using them or dedicating the parks to these nations. By the way, the Canada Park, because it is built on the land of Imwas and Yalu and Beit Nuba that were occupied in 1967, and again, according to the international law, this is an occupied Palestinian territory. The campaign that the refugees of these villages did in Canada made kind of pressure on the JNF, and many letters were sent to the JNF because most of the people that donated money to the JNF didn't know that this money will be used in an occupied Palestinian territory in 1967. 1967. It's against the international law and against even the Canadian law. People found out that had been cheated by the JNF, first of all, telling them that this money will be used in empty land and to make the desert bloom. And in the other hand, they even used that money not inside the borders of the state of Israel, but also in the West Bank. So the involvement of the JNF in the West Bank is not a new thing. We will hear very soon about the policy and the crimes of the JNF in the West Bank, but we can see already in 1967, the state of Israel gave part or land from the occupied area in 1967, and the JNF built the Canada Park. So this will be the last point. Some activities we managed to make in these forests in order to expose the JNF policy and the JNF role in preventing return of Palestinian refugees and stealing their lands and their property. There is a campaign in different countries that called Stop the JNF, mainly founded by Jewish communities and Jewish activists. One of them is in South Africa. The South Africa forest is covering a Palestinian village in the Galilee that's called Lubia. And some activists, when they visited the South Africa forest, they noticed the ruins of the Palestinian village and the cemetery. When they asked the JNF people that took them for a tour in the forest, they didn't give them good answers. So they made their research and they found out that their money was used in order to plant a colonial forest in order to cover and to hide the Lubia Palestinian village and to prevent the return. So made their own path of apology. They contacted the Palestinian refugees from the village. A few families are still internal displaced people inside the Green Line, inside the state of Israel, but the majority are living as refugees in Lebanon, Syria, and later on all over. And they visited the forest. They made a film about it. They distributed the knowledge. This was fantastic work. And they actually challenged the JNF narrative, saying that be careful that your money not really going to a good thing as the JNF propaganda says. And in the ceremony that they planned in the forest, they brought 200 signed papers by Jewish persons from South Africa saying or acknowledge the crime of the JNF on their names, and they asked the JNF not to do that on their name. And the research that they made actually was very important and affected other Jewish communities and other branches of the campaign of the Stop JNF in Ireland, in Britain, in Canada, and the United States. And hopefully, I think this one was a step of hope in order to make kind of correction or symbolic correction with the Palestinian refugees. And if you have the opportunity to come to Palestine and you want to know more about these destroyed Palestinian towns and villages, you are invited to use this app that we produced that called I Return. It includes most of the Palestinian destroyed villages and towns and the location as it was before the destruction. So you can use them and you can visit the JNF forest, and in fact, you are visiting a Palestinian village under the JNF forest. So please, you are invited to use it.
Thanks, Umar. So appreciated, and I know I gave you a very large task to summarize years of scholarship and research in a short period and an ongoing history in a accessible way, the way you've done. Thank you so much for highlighting the ways that the JNF has played an ongoing historical role, past and present, in Palestinian dispossession and the destruction of Palestinian habitat. I want to pass now to Ghassan Najjar to speak with us about the Burin Land and Farming Cooperative, about their important work and the work of Palestinian farmers to steward their lands in the face of military rule and ongoing dispossession of the kinds we've learned about. Ghassan, are you here and can you unmute?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me in this event. First, my name is Ghassan Najjar. I am from Burin village near Nablus. Burin is a small village south of Nablus. It's surrounded by 3 legal settlements. We are, as many villages, who's under attack by the settlers and the army. Burin have like really hard time, especially this time, because the settlers like usually every day attack the village, and also the soldier invaded the village usually every night and in the morning. I'm talking about like the most famous settlement in West Bank. It's called Zochrot, and the most like radical settlers who living there. This settlement is founded in 1982, and also there's other settlement. It's called Bracha settlement, it's founded in 1984. And also we have outpost. It's called Galilee. It's founded in 1999. Like Burin since 2005 until now lost more than 17,000 olive tree. It's by burning and cutting and poisoning the trees and also the soil. We're talking about like the most violent settlers in the West Bank, and they have like strategy for killing the trees, especially the olive trees in our area. As a cooperative, we work in the village. We like start work 2020 as a agriculture cooperative. We was last week 15. Now we are 20 person, 15 women and 5 men who's working in this cooperative. We are focusing for something called agroecology system, like life without chemical. And also we working as a food sovereignty in West Bank and here in Burin. Our cooperative is not just like economic cooperative as the people think. Our cooperative, it's like socialist, economic and struggle cooperative, because also like we are under attack by the settlers and the army, because all our work in Area C, as you know about Oslo agreement, like they divided areas, Area C and B and A. Burin, like 75 of Burin, like Area C. And also unfortunately, like even the 25%, we need permission to go in Area B, like because we didn't like control anything in our land. Our cooperative now working for many idea. First about, as I said, like food sovereignty, and now we try to have our seat like bank seat, as you know, like the Israeli government and the agriculture minister of Israel try to control even our seed and control the fertilizer. About fertilizer, like because they using like chemical fertilizer. So for us, it's good. They're not allowed to come to West Bank because we're working as like life without chemical. So we don't care if they're coming or not, because we try like to make our natural fertilizer, because we're working to fixing our soil. As I said, like the settlers, when they're poisoning the land, they're not just killing the trees, they're killing the soil. So our cooperative, it try to fix the soil by the natural fertilizer, because I don't think like we're gonna work like to get it like chemical fertilizer, like to fixing the soil. So, our also our cooperative, as I said, like it's socialist cooperative, because we have like 10% from our price when we sell the vegetables. It's going for the activity in Burin, for the children, woman, the old man, the man, and also we have 15 family. We try to help them by like them food. We pay for them like vegetables. Our vision, it's like to make like all the farmers to be part of this cooperative, because it's not like company. We are not like a company. We work together. We try like to make our work for all the villages around Burin also. يعني our idea is like struggle idea in this time, because since October 7 everything is changing the ground. The settlers and the soldier try hard to prevent us like to go to our land, and they try hard like to stop us to working in our greenhouses. But as like a part of the cooperative or the member of the cooperative, all of us like finish university, and we don't have job. So we make our cooperative it's first. So uh, we decided if we can't like go work in the land, it's good to go just like drink some coffee. This is the most important things, like to show the settlers and the soldier that we are every time in our land. They're waiting for us just to disappear from this land. But this is not what can happen, because we have a strategy how to work and how we can deal with all this attack. But yes, we are under attack, and there's like pressuring us a lot as settlers attack and army. Uh, but they can't stop us, because we believe that this is our land. Like we have whole conversation between us and one of the army officer about this land for who. The funny things, like when you ask him if this land for the Israeli people, why the settlers burning the land? Why the settlers cutting the land? Why the settlers like poisoning the soil and the land? And quickly he's like start talking about anti-Semitism things, like they're using that like as excuse. But like for us as a farmer and small farmer and a youth farmer, a young people, we make sure like every time they burn the land, this is make us sure this is our land and we have to work into. Like we are in the campaign now, we're trying to do it. Like if they're cutting one tree, we will kind of like plant 10 trees. This is like give us more hopeful as a youth in the cooperative to be like really we have to be back in our land, because the settlers didn't give you a chance to come back again. The settlers work in silence, they're taking the land in silence. Now there's a big project, it's happening in the Bracha settlement, and who's like owner this project, it's American organization, a Christian Zionist organization called Hayuval. This organization take more than 600 dunums from Burin land and plant like a grape there. And they're building a factory to make a wine. And they put it in the logo like Israeli wine from Bracha in West Bank or Shamron, as they said in Hebrew. So how we can face that? We can face that for all the youth now focusing to back to the land and working in the land. We don't need like just to cry there they take our land. The crying will not like back our land. You have to work hard. You have to be in your land every time. You have like to cleaning, to drink coffee, to drink tea. If you don't want it planting, you can like give it to youth in Burin or in other villages to work in. Always we say like our economic is like it's difficult in West Bank. But our economic really in our hand, but we have like to think how to use it. The land, it's our economic. Always we say like as youth and cooperative and organization, Palestinian organization, we should have a project called Back to the Land to support the people who don't have work to back him work to his land. This is what the meaning the food sovereignty. This is what the meaning like struggle, the real struggle in West Bank or whatever. This is a little bit about the situation in Burin. When we're talking about like the food sovereignty, as you know, like the Israeli army or the Israeli government control all the ways. There is money checkpoint, and we can't like go to 48 like to buy our stuff like seed or plant or fertilizer, anything. Yeah, it's now the time to make like our job here. We have the time, we should have the time to control our food here. Like about the seed, we have the idea to make like bank seed for all the for all the farmer in West Bank. We have one in Hebron for the AWAC organization, but this is not enough. In the north, we don't have one. Like in Nablus and Jenin, and we don't have one. This is the cooperative work as our cooperative or other cooperative in Nablus, Jenin, Bethlehem, I don't know, whenever, to have really big discussion and decision to make our seed bank to not like everything related about occupation. We don't need every time like to crying the occupation is the reason for that. No, we can do it. I know it's like difficult, but it's not impossible. That's the most important things. Just one step, you can do a lot of like work in the ground. And about like the selling the stuff, unfortunately, there's some businessman in West Bank who's try like to take our products, like our vegetable, to sell it in the settlement. And some people they are happy because they sell it by expensive. But as a cooperative, we succeed to stop that because we start taking all the products from the farmers and we sell it like together. We have like a market. We try to make this market for everyone in West Bank, especially in Nablus area, to control like the marketing for the vegetables. We don't say like we succeed like 100%, but we stop some like businessman to use us as like a protest and they sell us for the settlers. Yeah. We try hard like to make our life. We try hard to do something good in the ground and we succeed for some and we move for others. Our campaign, it's not just like planting. It's the idea. It's a planting. The the work is a planting, but in the big vision, just stay in the land, because as I said, the settlers will not give you any chance to back to your land if they take it. And you can see Ghassan or his friend in the land just drink coffee, and the soldier coming and make a problem with them. We're not planting. We're just sitting in the land. That's the idea now, because the settlers have many organization like to support them for them farming. Them government support them. As a Palestinian farmer, unfortunately, our government don't care about us. We are surrounded by like the occupation by the settlers. We are also surrounded by some people who try to use you as a business things. As I said, like the cooperative, it's not company. The cooperative, it's socialist things, social, economic struggle things. We have to struggle together until we achieve what we need. I will not like be late a lot. Like I can receive questions. Anyone want to know more? I will leave for you, Aris.
Thanks, Ghassan. Incredible to hear about the unbelievable work that the Burin Land and Farming Cooperative is doing as a social cooperative, as you spoke about, a workers' collective, mutual aid society, and many other things, advancing food sovereignty, environmental justice, and self-determination against and in opposition to the environmental racism and ecological destruction that the JNF, settlers, and the military and state of Israel are advancing as we speak. Um, Unfortunately, we don't have so very much time for questions. So I just want to make sure that people here hear also more about the Burin Land Farming Cooperative from a fellow member of the cooperative, Shirin, who I assume is a relative of yours, Ghassan? You're muted.
Sorry?
Shirin Najjar, I found an incredible video of her speaking, and I think I've met her. Is she a relative of yours, I assume?
Oh, I didn't hear you what you said.
Shirin Najjar?
Shireen?
Yeah.
No, she's a part of the cooperative. Like Najjar's big family in Burin.
Okay,
Most of the
fair enough.
people.
Shouldn't have assumed. But
Sure.
I wanted to give a few moments also to hear her voice in addition to yours, and I'll share my screen for us to hear her speak about also the cooperative and the importance of olive trees specifically in the cultural, economic, and political life of Palestinians. As she speaks, I ask everyone right now to please open on your computers while the video is playing and you hear her words to giftjustice.com on your computers and contribute to the Green Olive Fund. Your contributions will go to purchase olive saplings this January in Burin, along with honeybee boxes for a honeybee farm in in the South Hebron Hills, and other future international solidarity campaigns of this nature. And remember that the Cooperative and Green Olive, as part of this joint campaign, are inviting people around the world to host solidarity events and educational salons this January. So along with contributions, mobilizing events in your own communities that bring people into greater awareness would be much appreciated. And we'll hear from Shireen now while you open on your computers. Here again are the books.
أنا شيرين نجار من قرية بورين جنوب نابلس، مزارعة، عمري 46 سنة. موسم الزيتون هو فرصة للمزارع لإنتاج الزيت وزيادة دخله ودخل أسرته، وموسم حلو وجميل يعني بيستنوه كل أفراد العائلة كأنه عيد. المهم عنا إنه كل مزارع يرجع لأرضه، نكون إحنا عنا اكتفاء ذاتي، سلة خضروات وفواكه فلسطينية أصيلة. أهم الصعوبات اللي بتواجه المزارع هي وصول المزارع لأرضه القريبة من المستوطنات. بتمنى كل مزارع عنده أرض يزرعها، اللي بتزرعش أرضه بتروح. الساعة 6:30 الصبح والناس نازلة على زيتونها، وقفوا المستوطنين على الشارع وصاروا يضربوا حجار على السيارات وعلى الناس اللي رايحة على الزيتون، ضرب، إهانات، سرقة الخراطات، المفارش، كل عدة الفلاح خلوش معاه إشي. الناس صارت تخاف وتهمل الهم إنه ينزل الواحد على زيتونه، أو بينزل واحد بيسرق زيتونات وسرقة، تخيلي. إحنا هان البيت البلاستيكي أجوا أول مرة وثاني مرة وحطونا على أول الباب عند منزلنا. هسا جيش ممنوع ننزل، ونزلنا وجينا وزرعنا غصب عنا. أنا شيرين.
As she said, they plant against the will of the army, and here Green Olive and all that's left volunteers joined Ghassan and members of the Burin Land Farm Cooperative a few weeks ago. And here is a video of Ghassan entering the greenhouse of the cooperative. I thought everyone would want to see more of the incredible work they do.
Yeah, that's hard. It's hard to grow, actually. Yeah, some experiments.
Currently trellising these tomato plants, which means we help them grow upwards, which helps them support the weight of tomatoes. And anywhere you see yellow blossoms, tomatoes will come out. And we are also snapping off what are called suckers, which is any stem that comes out of a 45-degree angle in a joining of a part of the plant.
So as Ghassan said, when they cut down one tree, you can see they are replanting 10, and we're very honored to be partnering with them in the Sowing Solidarity campaign to replant olive trees that were burned in settler attacks in the last year. Members of the Green Olive Collective, All That's Left, and other solidarity groups on the ground will accompany the farmers this January to plant in the olive groves the saplings. And unfortunately, I think we'll have to close in just a moment. I wonder, Umar, if you want to share any last sentence or two in closing. You're muted, Umar.
Yeah, I saw some of the comments and the questions. I'm not sure that we can answer all of them. One is related to the pine trees that the JNF, actually the majority of the trees that they planted are pine trees. They wanted to create a European view in Palestine. You are right that these trees doesn't fit the climate and the weather in Palestine. They are flammable, and even they give some poison to the some of the plants on the ground. But the JNF recently realized that these trees are not a good idea. So they, in the areas that had been big fires took place in the mountains of Jerusalem and very close to Haifa, when they renewed the forests, they replaced the trees. They didn't plant pine trees anymore. They tried to plant this kind of trees that are similar to the indigenous trees, like the carob or other kinds of trees. This is very typical for colonial approach. In many places all over the world, people come from Europe and they think that they understand everything, and they try just to shape the area that they colonize according to their beliefs and their views and their knowledge. And later they find they are they're doing mistakes. So the pine tree is one of them, and even drying the water pools, you call it in I forgot the name in English. Okay, مستنقعات in Arabic, in the Hula Valley. Many years after that, they made actually a new pool because they found that this must be there. Many birds and many animals and many plants use that. So the JNF is very typical colonial Western tool that did this policy in Palestine, and they failed in many cases, but unfortunately they managed in other cases, mainly kicking out the Palestinian communities and preventing their return and their rights.
Thanks, Umar, and thanks in general for all the incredible perspective you've given to us today about the ways that environmental destruction and displacement are part and parcel of a unified project under the regime that exists, and the JNF's role in relationship to the state in advancing that project. Ghassan, do you have a last thought or last sentence or two you want to share with everyone before, unfortunately, we have to close for today? I'm excited for future opportunities to talk more fully.
I just want to add one thing, especially about like solidarity things. As an international solidarity who's come like to be with us in Palestine, they have like to know something. That's our struggle, it's your struggle. And the occupation, when they attack us, especially when you are with us, they're focusing on you before us because like they know now you are our witness in the area. You are like publish our suffering and you also living our suffering here. So the occupation and especially the settlers, they try hard like to prevent you to come to the villages, to come like to see what happened here in the ground. So like Burin not just for Burin people, Burin for the human right people or for the humanity who's coming to solidarity here, who's coming like to show solidarity here. As Burin, my village, it's also your village. Our struggle, it's your struggle. And the freedom, it's not just like for you guys, the freedom for everyone in the world. And we are, I think, we are part of this world, and we deserve the freedom. And the freedom, it's not coming by the crying; it's coming by the work and struggle. And I think, inshallah, soon we can have freedom, and we meet you in our country here in Palestine.
Inshallah. And I promise you, you've never experienced hospitality quite like in Burin. I hope that this conversation today can be part of the work of moving towards collective liberation and together working to dismantle systems of oppression that affect all of us as part of transnational movements of solidarity. Thank you to everyone for joining and for your contributions so far. They will allow us to develop global campaigns like this one, encouraging people around the world to take action in 2025. They will allow us to sustain our material support for communities facing displacement in the West Bank, to sustain a robust infrastructure of solidarity, advocacy, and action in the coming year, launch international campaigns in direct support of communities facing land expropriation, and continue highlighting voices insisting, especially now, that only freedom, equality, and an end to the ongoing Naqab can bring a future of dignity for all. The Green Olive Collective is hosting 3 solidarity missions in 2025, advancing empathy, solidarity across borders, and a democratic future. Our next mission is in February, and registration is still open. I heard some people ask in the chat about the possibility of joining on the ground. We would be happy to host you and bring you to meet with Ghassan and other human rights defenders in person. We hope everyone here has good and peaceful days, and we send all of you our support who are calling for justice around the world. A happy holidays to everyone who is celebrating in the coming weeks. We will send a recording of this event tomorrow and hope to see everyone soon. Much thanks to all of you, and especially to Ghassan and Umar, and have peaceful days. Thanks to all.